So let me then in this final video conclude both this model, this paper, but also wrap up actually the entire course that we did, since this is the final lecture in this course. So for this particular paper that I just discussed, so what we saw was this seesaw effect in terms of strategies. So it's always the case in these examples that there's essentially a couple of choices that firms can make, and essentially if you want to be a monopolist on one side of the market and be sort of producing independent goods here from your rivals on one side of the market, that means being close competitor on the other side of the market. So what will you do? I would like to be the monopolist on that side where the monopoly rents that are available are going to be largest, and that you can achieve that by being a close competitor on the other side. So you give up the monopoly rights basically on the other side. So what that means in practice here in these models, if these are these monopoly access rights that you can sell to advertisers, if that is large, then if you are a platform, you will benefit from strategies that make you a close substitute and a fierce competitor to your rival on the consumer side. And the reason being here that being a close competitor means that consumers are going to be making a choice. Am I going to go only to you or only to your rival? So perhaps the number of consumers that you can get is shrinking, but the number of unique consumers, so those who are coming only to you but not to your rival, well, that's expanding. And that expansion of unique consumers allows you to capture these large rents or as a gatekeeper to these advertisers. So indeed, the ideas and phrased here is substitutes for consumers. They create independency on the advertising side. And that means that you will capture actually these monopoly profits on that side if R is large. So if R is small on the other hand, of course, this story is completely reversed. There you don't worry that much about being a gatekeeper, because you cannot actually extract many rents from that side, from the advertising side. And you do worry about being differentiated from your rivals on the consumer side, because that will allow you to charge higher prices and actually escape competition on that consumer side. So in that case, the monopoly profits on the consumer side are going to win and are going to decide which strategy you will follow. So that's the idea of this particular paper. So let me then wrap up the entire course. So what have we looked at during this the 6 lectures before, essentially? So first we had a look at competition law in general, in particular focusing on European competition law, the particular articles that are relevant here, and particular authorities that are dealing with these articles of the particular the TFEU. We had a look at efficiency a little bit, and we had a look at what are relevant markets. So how do we define the markets in practice for different goods? And you had a look at those actually in the case studies as well. So how did the Commission actually in each of these cases define the different markets? And those might be many markets. So if you remember, for instance, the Ryanair case, well, each market was a single route essentially. So each route was a single market, I should say. So that there were many routes that were served by these players here, by Ryanair and Aer Lingus, and each of these routes would have to be sort of considered a single market, a single relevant market to be explored, to be analyzed by the competition authority. So then we had to look at mergers. So first we looked at Kuno mergers. So we identified this merger paradox. So if you just do this fairly naively, it turns out that in a Kuno market, it's not that profitable often to mergers. Only if you merge into almost monopoly, that create profits by merger are going to outweigh what you had before. But of course, the way out here is, well, if you merge, perhaps you would have cost efficiencies as well, and that might save the day for you. So in order to have a closer look at that, we looked at particularly at the at the paper by Ferrell and Shapiro, who analyzed this the presence of or the welfare effects actually of mergers, and the desirability basically of blocking or not blocking a merger when there are actually these cost efficiencies in corner markets. And then we had a look at price competition, so bird markets with differentiated goods typically, and also we had a look at the tool of merger simulation, and we did actually this assignment on that really related to that topic as well. So then the next three lectures we had a look at foreclosure essentially, and that vertical integration. So first we had a look at input foreclosure. So we first identified double marginalization as one reason why firms might want to integrate in the vertical chain, and we also saw that you could actually with the most suitable contracts actually also avoid part of these double marginalization effects actually. Then we looked at the Chicago argument, which said, well, if you see this vertical integration, well, that can actually never be, foreclosure can never be actually a sound reason for engaging in vertical integration, because if you are a monopolist on one side, you cannot actually leverage this monopoly power to the other side, because you can already extract your monopoly profits in this chain without doing this merger. So if we see mergers, it must be because of beneficial reasons, of efficiencies in particular. And the response essentially to this Chicago argument came later in the 1980s. So one exponent of this was the Hart-Tirol model that we had a look at, where we explained, well, there might be a commitment problem. So a commitment problem which doesn't allow you to actually capture all these monopoly rents that might be there. And you actually do need to vertically integrate to get those monopoly rents in the first place. That was the model by Hart and Tirol that we had a look at, and also a model for explaining exclusive dealing arrangements. Next, we looked at customer foreclosure. So this first example is input foreclosure. Customer foreclosure is basically the opposite, upside down version of that. So again, looked at exclusive contracts in that situation. So we explored various models. So Agnon and Bolton model, where we had exclusive contracts as a way to extract rents from new entrants. So in the end, this exclusive contract was undone, paid off basically by the entrant, but by doing so, by having this contract, you were able as a group, essentially as consumer and monopolist or incumbent cartel, if you wish, you were able actually to extract those rents from the new entrants. But in the end, the entrant did come in actually, at least that was the aim here. Then we had to look at these exclusive contracts, which do keep out entrants by way of coordination problems, essentially. So we looked at the Rasmussen, Ramsey, or Wiley, or / Segal Winston analysis, where these economies of scope made sure that, well, entrants, in order to be viable, need access or need to have contract essentially with more than one buyer, and well, that allows the incumbent actually to play out these various buyers ex ante and make sure that these entrants do not come in. And we also looked at the Burnham-Winston model, which asked, well, what if this entrant is actually already in this market, or at least in part of this market? Well, then still what might happen is that this player is kept out because of future profits in future markets, consumers of which are actually not yet available for negotiating their way out of this. And then we looked at essentially at the horizontal foreclosure or tying. So again, we dealt with this in as presented in like the other two examples of foreclosure as presented in this Rij and Tirol chapter. So clearly, this is fairly important piece of literature for this course. So we looked at the Winston model as presented in that paper, where actually tying is a way of predation, if you wish. So it's a credible threat of reducing prices by a large extent if the entrant comes in and actually by such a large extent that this entrant will actually think, oh, well, perhaps I should not enter this market. And we also had a look at the Carlton-Waldman model, also again as presented in the Tirol chapter, in which case actually tying occurred with respect to goods which might later on also enter the monopoly market. So we looked at the systems versus app markets and reasons why apps might be tied to systems in order to prevent future entry of this app producer, the rival app producer, also in the systems market. And of course, we looked at the many exercises dealing with these various models, and also with some others. So both these literature, so the Rijterol paper, the various chapters in MOTA that we discuss, and the various other papers that we discuss, particularly the Federal Superior paper, and the merger simulation ones. We looked at those, and those will be important. So I also expect for the exam, I expect you to be at least comfortable with the headlines or the major issues that play a role in the various cases that each of you have discussed. So have a look again at the videos just to at least to be aware of what these cases were about. So I expect you to be able to produce all the details of each of these cases, but I would like you to know actually, if I mention a particular case, oh yeah, there was that particular case on exclusion, for instance, or this particular case on tying, what you wish. And and as I mentioned, of course, all the exercises are really important, and the slides, the slides and these videos will be sort of central to the exam as well. So I produced a couple of old exams also on the Nesta site for this course. I have looked at those, and the current exam will resemble this exam, albeit that this year we will have an open book exam, so you can expect things that come directly, that can be found directly one-on-one, if you wish, in the literature. And I will try to avoid those kinds of questions. So it's more working with the material that we have and showing that you understand what's going on and are able to apply those also to new variations of models that we might have looked at. That's going to be important for this year's exam. So finally today I discussed this two-sided markets. That was mostly as informative for you, I guess. Hopefully on what are current directions in competition policy, and particularly competition economics, and in the literature and the current research in this literature, and also to stress actually the importance. So you can see this in newspapers, of course, today, and you will be able to see those actually in the coming time, I'm sure. So this is an important part of research, also going to be an important part for employment, at least if you're also inclined to do something in industrial organization. This might be a good direction to have a look at. So that might also inform, if you are thinking about this, informed choices of master thesis. So think about that as well. So with that, I think I'm going to end this video. So I'm going to end this whole lecture series, this course. So I wish you good luck with the exam, and I might see you again in other courses, or perhaps even in thesis discussions, and all the best for that. Bye-bye.